So yes, guys, welcome back to the Natural Muscle Podcast. As you can see here, we are joined by no other than AJ Morris, one half of the NBW. And today we've kind of got AJ on specifically on this episode to discuss the NBW International, the vision behind that, and if that was kind of like the initial vision with NBW at first. I know we've obviously setting up the member site and having a route to look at for natural bodybuilders was
Of course.
something that's kind of why you set up NBW. But did you kind of ever envision kind of what's to come now and what is to come in future years for NBW?
Sure. So, I mean, first and foremost, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate being on the podcast, guys, and what you're doing already for natural bodybuilding is great. Like anything that supports the sport and gets the athletes and gets the shows out there is fantastic. So keep doing what you're doing. As for NBW and the show itself, I'd be lying if I said that when I set up, the site and when I launched the initial plan for MBW, I'd be lying if I said that I thought that a show would be a part of it this soon. I think that what's kind of naturally happened is that there's been opportunities that has arisen, and for me also as well. Like I think this is something that I saw myself doing maybe a little further along the line, in terms of show promotion and being sort of more part of the background. But I think I'm in a position now where, it is really a case of now or never, because there's many other federations that are going down the path that I'd like to see other federations go down the path of, in terms of having more opportunities for people to compete with kind of any sort of no like affiliate bias, so to speak, in terms of you have to have a certain pro cards to do a certain pro class, etc., etc. I think that's actually opening up the door to natural bodybuilding growing even more, because you're seeing some shows where the pro men's bodybuilding lineups, and even some pro women's categories as well. The lineups are really stacked. They're very deep, and the deep in competition. They're deep in also as a result of that entries, and then as a result of the entries, they're good in prize money. So if we wait another 2-3 years, someone might take that opportunity in the UK, and run away with it. Right now, we've not got that. We've not got it in the UK. For sure, we've got phenomenal opportunities to compete as a natural athlete in the UK. This will just be another one of those and another option to people. And I think the biggest thing that I want to say with the NBW show is obviously the opportunity for me to do this would not be possible without what is already there. Like especially for me, obviously the relationship that I've developed with Lee and with Amy, and the trust that they have in me, to give me the opportunity to start to put NBW sort of more at the forefront of the promotion of the show. Just, I think that's the important thing to kind of make clear at the start of this podcast, is that it is a collaboration. I still had some people message me saying, why is the NBW clashing with the UK FBA International show? And I'm like, it is that, it would be quite an error, quite a bad business move for me to sponsor UK FBA and then have a show that clashes with their international show. So, yeah, it is the same thing. They're both in collaboration, so you can expect a lot of what you normally get with some UK FBA shows, in terms of, Lee will be on the mic. There'll be a judging panel that will be largely made up of officials from UKDFBA in terms of their experience level, over decades of experience judging shows. They've got the right eyes for the right classes. And then there'll also be a huge blend of people I have selected, people I have selected to be a part of the show, in terms of, front of house, backstage, in and around the venue. Of course, the actual background of the show, in terms of who's going to be running the live stream, who's going to be doing the music, who's going to be doing the reels, who's going to be doing all the media packages. That's also all going to be on my side. So there'll be things that will be, yeah, very, very different to other shows you've experienced. but also the upgrade that we need to take natural bodybuilding in the UK to the next level, because we need to do a show where everyone knows about it. It's impossible not to know about it when it happens. And that's I think something that we can capitalize on and do with this show, is we've got the opportunity to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the main thing here with kind of what you're doing and the main kind of message you're getting out there is having so much kind of media promotion around the show. And it's something we've seen this year and previously with AMBF from the year prior as well.
Yeah.
Really pushed hard on the media, just getting like incredible live streams as well. So you're almost like sitting watching it at home, and it's the closest thing to actually seeing it in person.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, what you're doing on that side of things, and then bringing elements which you've probably seen over years of competing, which what you've liked and so on, and putting your spin on things, I think, yeah, that'll definitely be very beneficial.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. I think the thing is, it's got to be a blend of what already is working very, very well, and then the years of experience, and then a new dust of what is basically the expected standard now in social media day and age, where let's be honest, like the coaches that are involved in social media drive the clients to the show, in terms of like their entries, they drive the entries, and then the people that are in the show are the people that are supporting all of those clients that have been driven to the show. And this is all driven by large part of it is driven by social media. Coaches have clients because of social media. People are going to shows because of social media. And if we're not making it super clear that this is something that people need to be at, then bums won't be in seats and people won't be entering shows. So to keep it alive, the social aspect of it does need to be nailed, heavily prioritized. So, and it's also the quality of what the athletes get out of it as well. Because if you come away from a show and you win a title, you also want kind of to come away with it with, the highest quality media packages, so you can remember the moment, share the moment, smash it on your socials, and then grow the sport even more, because, you smash a load of great media after a show on socials and people immediately want to do the show. It's why you look at, the shows like your Evo Classic, AMBF, things like that. People want to do them because, as an athlete, I mean, you feel like you're competing at the Olympia when you're there. So, um, that's definitely something I wanted to nail. And then also, I mean, I know you guys wanted to kind of talk and touch on the sort of like the expo element. I mean, by no means is it going to be a massive expo. So I think the way to describe the venue is basically one massive, huge hall. So it's going to be split up into thirds. So you can imagine one third of it is going to be space for people that are sponsoring the show to have booths, have stands, places for people to grab food, for people to grab drink, socialize, whatever. One third of it's going to be the space for the stage, the space for the spectators, and then one third is going to be a massive backstage space, drug testing, tanning, all of that in some of the back rooms, and then just an open space for backstage. So the room in itself is very easy to maneuver and work around. The venue is often used for huge expos, boxing events, music festivals, things like that. So it's a very versatile environment. And when you get into the space, like it's super cool. It's all like blacked out, lighting down the sides. It's like it feels like you're in somewhere special. It feels like you're in like in an arena. Um, so as an athlete, it will be a very, very cool place to spectate. Because I've stood when I've looked around it twice now and gone through some planning. When you stand where the stage is going to be, all you'll see is just the depth of the venue. It's like you have obviously bright lights flashing at you, so you'll see some loss of the depth, but like it's crazy how cool it's going to be. I can imagine as an athlete, it will just be something that you've probably not experienced at a bodybuilding venue before. Um, so yeah, I mean the venue itself is really important also because it's a bit of a magnet for international athletes. So, with it being so close to one of the best gyms in the world with Ultraflex, it's literally a 5 minute drive from the venue. Um, people will want to come over for a week from Spain, Italy, Switzerland, wherever they want to come from to then also be able to train at Ultraflex and be able to be located in Sheffield, Rotherham, wherever you choose to stay. So that was a huge draw to that venue. Obviously, being local to me makes it a huge benefit as well. And I think the choice was also down to being able to bring on local brands, because I have a lot of friends that run local businesses within the fitness industry here in the local area, and all are willing to be a part of it, in some shape or form, whether they have a booth and support with something like that, or whether they just sponsor the show in some shape or form. It'll be a great opportunity for local businesses, brands, and also businesses that just generally are involved in the bodybuilding space, specifically if they're interested in natural bodybuilding, to come on board, because your target market will be there, and your target market will not just be there present, but they'll also be on live stream, on social, on everything. And our plan is to make it also a huge like marketing event for those businesses that want to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in regards to obviously the show being, obviously now we've got the UK Championships through the UK DFBA, and as you mentioned, obviously collaborating. This show is collaborating with the UK DFBA, and then we'll have the international championships with that, which is
Yep.
4 weeks after, isn't it? So 20th to the 3 weeks.
Yeah, so the UK FBA show that falls before it will just be for UK athletes.
Yep.
And that the reason why, we've kind of collaboratively with Lee made the decision to make that for UK athletes only, is to drive the internationals towards the NBW show. But also at the same time, for a long time in the UK, it was very tough to win an actual UK title, because you'd come third and be beaten by two people from Germany or Italy or whatever. And it's like, are you a British champion or are you not a British champion? You know what I mean? So it now brings the British champion title truly back to that show. And that will still be a very, very prestigious show. That will be like, if you're a UK athlete and you win that, that could be your goal of the season. That's cool. But we also want to give a super cool opportunity to compete internationally against what I really believe can be super strong lineups on UK soil. So if you want to go and compete internationally, I'm sure there'll still be other opportunities in other countries with other federations, and also with the UK FBA. So that'll all be made clear as the season goes on. But in terms of, if you want to stay on UK soil and you want to do a show that, like I said, I can promise you'll be happy with what you get out of it as an athlete. Then the NBW is then the option that leads on to that. But just to make it clear, you have to compete. If you're a UK athlete, you have to compete with the UK FBA in this season to be able to then compete in the NBW. If you're an amateur, that is.
Yeah, totally makes sense there with that, and it does now give that clear divide for kind of having a British title within the UK, because as we know, many of years where there's depends on the class you fall in, there could be multiple Germans, Austrians taking that title. You could be the third best in the class, but ultimately the British champion. So it does give that clear divide with that, and it gives the opportunity, particularly for, say, a lot of younger athletes, particularly those that are not backed with like huge finances, to be able to actually compete against international athletes, but without having to travel overseas. Because I imagine for a lot of teens or even juniors to travel to do like WMBF Worlds from the UK, it's a huge
expense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely opens another avenue down there, which is great. And then obviously Rotherham, huge attraction for many people to come down to. So yeah, totally makes sense, and very, very well thought out there. I know you've got another question down from another side as well there, Finn, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, from what AJ said already, like, this is the kind of thing that I think, as a country, with how strong our scene is, I think we should have, this sort of show, this level of ambition. So obviously very grateful for someone like AJ to put his hand in his pocket and to provide this opportunity, because if you're looking at the results, I mean, just obviously this morning with Ben, like, we're producing some of the best bodybuilders, amateur and pro, in the world. And, you know, we're looking across to Germany and Europe, and they're setting the standard for these shows. And it's like, well, why can't we put something on that similar? Like, we have good shows, we do. Like, all of our British finals are good, well produced. But this just sounds like it's like that next level, that elevated thing, like you say, and AJ just said. Everyone in Europe, everyone further afield is going to be like, that's a bucket list show. Like, many of us have looked at the AMBF or the Evo and gone, that'd be cool to do. Like, if we have that in this country, and I think this, like, the culture in this country is probably as strong as any other country in the world for natural bodybuilding. So why can't we set the standard? So it sounds amazing, absolutely amazing. And, you know, ultimately what he's described is like, I know Two Bros had their British finals there just a couple of weeks ago. It sounds like ours, you know, could be better as a natural one in terms of the experience, which is really, really cool. And again, not to have this closed mind of thinking, oh, well, there's more money in the assisted side, why should we like hold ourselves down and just not put on as big a show? And they're like, no, fuck that. Like, let's provide a spectacle, because then more people might stay on our side of the sport. So it sounds amazing. So yeah, but one of the questions came through was in terms of the pro cards. Obviously, Julian should be sacked off the back of this, because he asked if his UK UP pro card or pure elite pro card would suffice. So I did warn him that might result in a sacking. But in all seriousness, is in terms of like the vetting, is it just all major natural pro cards accepted?
Yeah, it will be all major natural pro cards. I think, like, don't get me wrong, like, if we notice pros competing in the year, there will be a sense of putting out some feelers. You know, so saying like, you know, we'd love to have you there, basically, you know, almost acting as a bit of an invitational. And saying to people, you know, look, it's an open door. We're just mentioning this show because something I should probably said at the start, but I really will preface this, is that I'm totally aware we need to build prestige. Prestige is huge. You know, there's a reason why there's the big shows out there, that the titles that people want to win. But the biggest thing that I want is in 10 years' time for people to be craving to have a title at this show. Like, it be their biggest goal to do the show, to get a title, to win the pro class, to win the overall, the amateurs. I want it to be the as top of the tree as I can possibly make it with the people that I've got behind me. And I believe that is possible. I believe it is possible. But prestige needs to be built. Trust needs to be built as well. And, you know, that's why, you know, straight out the gate, we're running a 2-day show. Why? Because we want every athlete to be taken care of. You know, I've seen many, many, many 1-day shows go on way too late, and athletes stepping on stage 2 a.m. And it's like, they've all paid the same money. One of them stepping on stage at a perfectly adequate time. One of them stepping on stage at 2 a.m. You know, yeah, it's more money to pay for the venue for another day, but it's an improved athlete experience. And that's really like the biggest objective, is to make sure that every athlete that does the show comes away from it happy, knowing that the money that they spend to enter, the time that they dedicated to prep for it is paid off. And that's like I said, the most important thing is building trust, respect, integrity with the show. And that's something that will take several years to do. But like Finn said, I think we deserve to have a show like this, which does really, really, really put UK natural bodybuilding on the map. And, you know, it's like if I, you know, with NBW, to give a great example, if I just, you know, launched a t-shirt, you know, like back in 2021 when the brand wasn't even known, you know, like, yeah, people would have maybe purchased a few because it was me, but now people purchase NBW, and some of them actually genuinely don't even know that I'm behind it at all. Like, I've sometimes bumped into some people that are members on the site, and they don't know that I'm behind it. And that to me is perfect, because that is then a brand on its own. It's standing on its own legs. And that's why I had the vision to bring on athletes, bring on a team, because they all bring their own people, and then that builds a community, right? So for me, yeah, of course, it's still something I'm always going to care super passionately about, and I'm always going to be a massive driving force behind it. But I do want it to be a brand that's just internationally recognized, regardless of me, regardless of whatever. It's like, then the show just promotes that to a whole new level, because then people see NBW as a show as well as a brand, and it just gives it more legs to stand on. So, but yeah, building trust, integrity, and respect for the brand is something that that's like top of the tree for me in terms of importance.
Yeah, Mega, absolutely spot on with that. And then in regards to kind of like the media coverage through for the NBW show, I believe you mentioned the guys over at AMBF. Are they going to be running the show in terms of the actual the stream and stuff, or have you got someone else doing that? Because I know the actual coverage itself, like, yes, you put in kind of the athlete at the forefront here. We want them to have the great experience, and that's going to be ultimately from them being at the show. But in terms of actually bringing new athletes to the show and new athletes towards like natural bodybuilding, how do you think kind of like the media coverage will do that, and who's behind all that?
Sure. So it's 100% likely that I'll have Alex Challenor there as one of my main video guys. He won't be a part of the live stream production, but he'll be a huge part of the media production. For athletes, that a large part of the media production will be free. A large part of it will be you compete in the show, your entry fee gets you media. NBW pays for the media guys to be there. Like, that's genuinely how a lot of this will work. You're not going to be expected to pay another £150, another £200 for a video. You get it posted on the page. You compete, you get it posted on the page. And it also, we want opportunities for then, just like we kind of started with like the NBW Classic, but when we collab then with the athlete on Instagram, it then boosts. If the athlete's not got very many followers, but let's say they're an amazing athlete, they're just boosted on one of the highest following natural bodybuilding pages, and immediately they're gaining 100, 200, 300, 400, whatever followers. And then they've got maybe businesses that they can build off of that. So it's like, it's a leverage and it's a platform. It's like you compete at this show and you leverage yourself, because that's how literally I've built all my businesses, is leverage with social media. So I want athletes to have that opportunity to leverage social media. So Alex is my guy. He's going to be a huge driving force behind a lot of that. As for photography, obviously photography packages will be something that the athlete purchases, as whether they want them or not. But I can promise you that we're going to have like top tier guys behind the photography. I'm pretty confident with who I'm going to have at the show. There's probably some inklings of it through the reshares on Instagram and things like that. But this guy could shoot the Olympia and get 10 out of 10 from all the pro athletes at the Olympia. He's that good. So that's photo and video. As for like live stream, some post production stuff, so some post show movies, things like that. As for running the music, as for like, so selecting what songs we play, the pose downs, things like that, and refreshing all of that aspect, highly likely we'll be using Rising Productions, which are the team that have done not just AMBF, they've done a bunch of different things. They've done AMBF, they've done Evo Classic, they've done a bunch of different powerlifting events. They've filmed DTM, which is Dutch touring cars. They've done so much stuff, and they're a super passionate team of young guys. That, yeah, I mean, it's highly likely. I've just got to give them the green light. I've already got the quote through and everything's ready. So I've had a really couple of exciting calls with them, and obviously it's going to be something that will be an expense and be something that we'll be putting a lot of money into. But I believe that this is the thing that drives the magnet. That people will remember, and people will think, even if they don't compete in the first year, they'll see it, and then for the second year they'll be I'll be like, oh man, I have to do that show. I missed out. I have to do that. So yeah, it's highly likely that they'll be literally driving all the way from Austria to Rotherham to run all of that for us. So but again, when you see when you see talent, you want to invest in it. You know, when I sent the inquiry to them, I was like, bottom line, you're the best in the business. And that's from me going to loads of shows, seeing live streams, seeing post production, seeing what people do on the lead up and the days of. And I'm like, I don't see anyone do it better. So why would I risk in not getting the best? You know, like if I'm gonna go out there publicly and say I'm gonna make this one of the best shows in the UK, I've got to back it up. I can't just say it. I can't just talk. So I've got to back it up with other stuff. So yeah, highly likely that they'll be in the mix. And that's pretty much most of the team that will be running the social side. And then, you know, realistically, my objective is have everything so organized and planned and ready that from my side on the show day, I'm a coach. I'm a coach again. Yeah, cool. It's like NBW promoting the show, but I'm a coach. I've got a team in the show. My job is coaching. You know, my job to get the show ready is done. It's complete. Everyone's in their place. Everyone's knowing what they need to do. It's game on, you run the show, and that's it. And my job is to support my athletes like I would at any other show and enjoy the show and be there as a coach and think, what do I like about this as a coach? You know, being here as a coach. So yeah, that's that's the plan of action. And we've already got a lot of things in place that are pretty much, you know, ready to rock so that it can just make the whole process next year super, super easy. But there'll be things that we can, of course, always do better. And we'll sit down after the first one and be like, we'll just rip into it. What needs to be better? What needs to improve? What can we do better next time? Because that's the kind of person that I am, you know. Yeah, of course, it's nice to do well, and I really hope that it succeeds, but I also will be the type of person that would be willing to take on any feedback, any criticism, any things that we can do better. And I think, again, that's something that in the industry, people do get hurt sometimes a little bit by those things and then don't want to change them because they're attached to their ways, you know, which they've done things for a long time, which I respect. But the people that are at your shows, if they're giving you feedback, it's probably good to listen to some of it and be like, yeah, we should do this because then it makes it better for probably everyone else. So yeah, that's the way that we're going to run shop.
Yeah, it sounds super exciting, and I think in terms of the coverage is one big thing that the UK has been missing really. For bringing more people into the show, and it just builds excitement. I'm sure we can all kind of agree that seeing the likes of the AMBF or the Evo Classic, like actually watching the production of that, you get excitement just actually watching through on the screen, and it's like no other. So having that production there at the show is, after seeing that, is that's going to be very special, and something we have been missing in the UK, and I'm sure that alone is gonna help massively grow the sport. So yeah, very excited for that.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how many questions you got, or if you got any on the Q&A, but I know I got one from Michelle who DM'd me, and I said that I promised her that I'd answer it. So before I don't answer it and I forget and I keep rambling on, I'll answer it. So she basically asked a very, very, very honest, you know, respectful question about the pro classes. You know, why are we only doing men's bodybuilding? So there's two aspects to that. So number one is depth of field, and number two is prize money. Okay, so two things that I want for the pro classes. One is depth of field. I want people that turn up to the show to have a lineup. I already have a lineup of 6 or 7 pros that are ready to go, that are 100% going to do the show. So we've already got 6 or 7 pro bodybuilders that want to do it. That's only going to build into next year. Or hopefully, I want double digits for pro classes. So at the moment, with no disrespect to the class, but I don't think that we've got the ability to build double digits yet in the pro women's bodybuilding lineup. I'd love to. And I think in future years, we can definitely do that. But then the issue becomes like, if we lose depth of field, then we lose the ability to drive more prize money towards that specific pro class. And then the questions come, why did the men's open get this and why did the women's get this in terms of prize money? Then it's a problem because it's not equal. And unfortunately, that's like how a lot of other pro shows are run, is that you get prize money based off how many people enter. And obviously, pro men's open is always going to be the biggest class. But my vision is, why don't we steadily build momentum, build interest? We've already got some nice interest from some women's physique competitors that would like to do the show. So I guess my promotion of it is going to be, we're interested in having more pro classes. Please give us that interest, show your interest. So if Michelle's interested in competing in the show, she's added to the interest. Once we've got enough interest and we know that the scope for putting on a depth of field that also then can drive the prize money back up again for that class, then we're game on, because then that's equal prize money, it's fair opportunity, and it's also depth of field. So you enter the show, you put in all the time and the effort, and you don't just stand up there with two people. You stand up there with a class of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different women's pros. So there's two aspects to that question. But I really do hope that we can get that. And it's also even the timings of the show. So like right now we've got a huge 2 days planned. We need to know where the numbers are going to be at for those 2 days, the amateur contest, and then of course right now pro bodybuilding is going to feature in the second day right at the end. And I'd love to see that be, the cap off to the end of a 2 day phenomenal event. And in the future, if we can make a 1 day an amateur or 2 days amateur and then 1 day pro, that would be incredible, Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of event. But we need to build to get there. And when we get there, I want it to be at the level that I want it to be at, and this is not just my decision, by the way. This is something that me and Lee have had. We've been chatting since 13 months about this. So we've gone back and forth a lot of times about what we feel is the right way to move. And this has been a back and forth discussion a lot of times. So we really ultimately just want the best opportunities, and we want to come away from the show with athletes feeling like they've been all fairly treated with what they get, as a pro athlete, especially. So that's kind of the long answer to it.
Yeah, it kind of answers two questions in one with that one as well. In regards to the NBW International, so it's going to be solely the vision to kind of have the amateur show on the Saturday and then the pro show on the Sunday. Is that correct?
Oh, long term, yeah. I mean, but there's nowhere near enough categories for that right now. It's just not going to just be pro men's bodybuilding on the Sunday. So yeah, it will be split according to pretty much how like we ran the UKDFBA, INBA, PNBA World Championships in terms of day 1, day 2. So, but honestly, in terms of schedule and layout, we will confirm that a little bit closer to when we understand what the numbers are looking like, because the numbers will drive where we have to place certain categories. We also want to plan the day for audience retention, because really I want the crowd to be stacked for as long as possible. And, that's a big reason why, 1/3 of the venue is going to be made up of some vendors, because I want the ability for people to feel like they don't have to leave, they can sit at the back and grab some food. They can look at some different vendors for clothing. They can catch up with people at the back. It's the difficulty with, let's say, an auditorium, is that when you're in an auditorium, you either stay there the whole day as a coach and your ears and your eyes are very messed up by the end, or you have to walk around, get out of the venue to get fresh air. Whereas, the way that the venue is going to be set up, if you can imagine it, it's like stage, seats, vendor and expo space, like staggered. So you can still kind of stay updated with what's going on stage and watch, whilst you can also sit at the back, grab food, grab drink. We're thinking about creating some form of like space where people can feel like they can just relax as well. Because a lot of the thing is a venue where you know, there's no space to chill and relax, and you've got a long day. It feels like you have to leave, you know, you have to go. But really we want people to want to spend the day there, you know, and not want to have to go anywhere else for food or for drink. You know, you can literally grab it all on site. So yeah, that's what we're really invested in, is people making a day of it. And that's the whole structure of the event, really.
Yeah. And in regards to kind of two questions in one here. So in regards to the spectators, and how many does the actual venue itself hold for actually spectating the show?
Oh, yeah, a lot. I mean, we can part as many spectators in there as we really need. But it's looking like we're gonna probably be going between 600 and 700 seats. So yeah, if we can get close to maxing those out, that would obviously be a dream come true. But you know, in terms of like selling out and running out of spectators tickets and people having to wait outside, unlikely that it's going to happen. Um, but at the same time, it's like we can always extend the space that we do use if ticket sales start to go up a little bit higher, because that's the flexibility of the space. We've got different kinds of seating we can use as well. We've got tiered seating, we've got flat seating, we've got, you know, it's not just you're buying a, you know, or you're hiring a 300 seater theater. It's you're hiring a massive space which is flexible upon the needs of the individual that's hiring it. So we can play about with things a little bit if we find that the ticket sales go a little higher than we expect. But I mean, yeah, it would. I mean, imagine it would be so cool to have something like 500, 600 people stacked out seats. Because that's honestly what would make the whole thing pop, is people cheering, shouting, screaming, and wanting to be a part of the whole show. So but yeah, I expect that we can do some good damage on the spectator front.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, in terms of like the community aspect, he's certainly there. So we certainly have the numbers there available to fill, and it's something we're kind of missing at a lot of shows now. Maybe due to particularly where some of the actual shows are located for a lot of people, but obviously the location itself has been specifically thought about, and obviously convenient for yourself as well, luckily enough. But one thing I'd say in regards to people, spectators specifically, it's like staying at the show
Mm.
and staying towards the end, because normally we have kind of the pro show towards the back end of the day.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, that means it's the least amount of like spectators actually seeing
yeah,
the
yeah.
best athletes within the sport. Uh,
Usually it's too
that's
late as well.
generally too late. Yeah, I'm sure that's something you thought about with Lee, and it's kind of being mentioned. Is that something kind of at the forefront, bringing that in earlier in the day, in towards the middle of the day, or?
I think that's a really good suggestion, and one that I'll definitely take on board, in terms of the fact that, you know, people end up shifting away and things like that. What I'd like to do is in terms of the days themselves, is make them so that we're not getting to the point where it's like 9 p.m., you know, and we're having to watch a class go on stage super late. Um, I'd like also a pretty clear schedule, so competitors have in mind, you know, when they're going to be on stage and what time they should stay around for if they're looking to watch the pros, rather than it just being at the end of a schedule and people being like, I don't know when that's going to be. So I think schedule, I think timing is going to be super important. I also think in terms of running in the middle of the day, or it will just depend as to what other classes we run on that particular day, because we want it to blend in at the right time. It also depends when the amateur bodybuilding ends, because I think you had a question about pro cards and stuff. So in terms of like what pro card they get and things like that, it's not really a case of what pro card they get, but they get the opportunity to compete in the pro class. That's the opportunity that they get. Is if you win the amateur overall title, you will be going into the pro class. So having a smart but sensible gap between when that overall is decided and the pro class itself is going to be key. But I think also it's going to be key to have that relatively close to continue to build the hype, because the main hype of the show is going to be exactly that, you know, for a lot of people, is going to be watching the certain divisions of the amateur bodybuilding, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many we end up having due to entries, then the pro division, that's going to be like the stuff that probably a large part of the spectators are going to be there for. So seamlessly flowing that together is going to be what we want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a tough one to obviously have it earlier in the day, because obviously you're wanting, if there's a phenomenal athlete that's won the amateur title, you both, well, spectators, they want to see him in the pro lineup. He wants to be in the pro lineup. It's a tough one to balance. So you'll nail it there. But it's also it's hard from a spectator standpoint when there's maybe 10, 15 people there and that they've only seen the actual like pure elite top natural bodybuilding, because they've not seen the pro class because it's been so late on in the day. But
yeah,
it's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just not making it too late so people feel like they can be there for the day and not have too much of a problem with it. Because yeah, like, for example, if it was a 9-5 show or something like that, it kicked off a little bit earlier and it finished a little bit earlier, a lot of people have a reason to stay because then they don't get home at like 1 a.m. But when you kick off shows 12 or 1 o'clock for the first class, then it's creeping on to like 8, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., etc. That's when a lot of people start thinking, oh, I've got work tomorrow, So thinking logistically about the start time and things like that and allowing a lot of people to have a reason to stay is important. But and that also just comes down to even little things. It's like for me as a spectator, if I've got different things getting my attention, that's important. So it's like, how we overlay sponsor adverts, how we run the music, because like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I don't want to sound like I'm just being a dick, but like, how boring does it get when you've heard the same song like 7 times? You know, you want also songs that match what you're watching. So if the men's bodybuilding comes out and it's like just generic like pop music, it's not like motivating. But if the men's bodybuilding comes out and you have some like cinematic big music, you're like, whoa, like I want to watch this, And some federations do an incredible job with that. And those are the ones where you win, and you're like even more pumped because it's been so cinematic and theatrical to get to your result, rather than just, there you go. And that's another reason, massive reason why Lee's gonna be on the mic and we're gonna be head judge, because his voice is the in my opinion the voice of UK natural bodybuilding, and it's got to be there because he's the one that can create that dramatic end to a result when you win and Lee announce you winning. It's a superb feeling. So I want that to stay for as long as he wants to do it. So yeah, but like the feel of the day is important. Um, and also the ability for us to have like engaging stuff going on, there's a bunch of ideas I've got. I mean, I feel like I'm giving away all of my planning secrets now. But there's a bunch of ideas that I've got for basically spectator retention, to keep people there and to give them a reason to hang around, not just for the show, but for other things that we can have going on as well.
Absolutely spot on.
Mm.
In regards to actual like divisions of the classes, obviously we'll have like no novice there or anything. So I'd imagine we'd have bigger classes, which is more exciting to stand up against multiple people, because I know certain classes where it might just have like one or two or so on. And I imagine you're going to split that based on the numbers on the day, if like particularly with bodybuilding rather than just weight or height classes.
Yeah, the bodybuilding classes will almost 100% be weights. That's the way that I would like to go. One, because I feel like it in most cases offers more fair competition. I feel like you can be short, but you can also be 90 kilos, and then you're up against a guy that's 70. And yes, you're the same height, but one is way more muscularly endowed than the other. Whereas when you have like a bunch of under 70 guys together, it's consistent. They're all under 70 kilos, and then if you're like needing to build more muscle, it's clear, So I think the weight categories is the way that I'd like to go. So that's the way that we're very much likely to go. As for like the end split, yeah, it will depend on the actual ending numbers on the day. But there will be given weight categories. So if people want to try to fit a weight category, they'll have the opportunity to fit the weight category. So yeah, that's the way that we'll run shop.
Right, spot on. And then in regards to like divisions, I imagine we'll have similar similar classes as a UKD FBA will run. So
Yes.
like the new wellness and classic physique, which is obviously
Yeah.
growing and on there.
We'll have junior classic as well. So we'll have age division for classic. Classic's super popular. Again, this is something we discussed with Lee, but super popular. It's a great division if you nail the criteria. It's clear when people are just not classic, but they should also just they should just do bodybuilding. So you can give them that feedback as a judge. Um, but people want to do it, people like it. And I get the drive to do it as well because it is a cool class. When you do have a really classic looking physique, it works. So yeah, we'll have junior classic and classic as an open, and then it will depend on numbers as to whether the classic division is split.
Yeah, spot on. And we're going to say, do you have any further questions on your end, AJ? Because I know has been pretty much answered as you've gone through the podcast.
I don't think so. I think one person asked on the actual post about like international judges because at international shows it's important to have non country bias, so if you have a whole panel of just UK judges, it's a little frowned upon. So yeah, we'll have an international spice with the judging panel. And also for clarity, all judges will be announced in terms of their acumen, in terms of their background, in terms of why they're there before the show. So as an athlete, you know who you're being judged by. I think that's fair. You should know who your judging panel is. And you should have the opportunity to think, I get why that person is on the panel. So when you talk to someone after, you can go, oh, hey, Lee, or hey, Chris, like, you know who they are. So it creates that feeling again of community. It creates that opportunity for an athlete to go, oh, hi, could I just get a bit of feedback, and it opens up that door to people feeling more comfortable as well. So yeah, all judges will be announced before the show well in advance. So people who like, they'll know what the judging panel is going to look like. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a cool avenue to go down, and particularly for the athlete, knowing who they're judged by and what kind of accreditation they've got, and ultimately who to kind of look for the advice to what they need to improve on. Because ultimately, even if you've won the whole show, there's still elements in your physique you will have to improve on, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's been a pleasure having you on, and just to round things off, really, mate. I'd say how does this kind of change things for yourself as an athlete rather than a coach now?
I think for me, it cancels out the ability to prep in the full season for quite some time, which is, you know what, the biggest thing for me is like to get this show to a level where in in 3 or 4 years' time, it's so autonomous that I could compete in it. You know, that would be ideal. That would be amazing. So, and of course, fairly judged, by the way. Like that's, I'm sure that's frowned upon as like me competing in my own NBW show, but like, the judging panel will be completely unaware of those side of things. So yeah, for me, it's like get it to run super autonomously, and be in a position where I don't have to think so much about the planning and all of that stuff, because the first year is going to be the heaviest. Second year will also be probably quite heavy because there'll be a few things I think we can just, take from that first year and do different. But from there, it should be quite straightforward. It should be a well-oiled system. I'm already doing so much behind the scenes so that, even how you buy your tickets, how you enter as an athlete, like it's so seamless, and I invested a lot of time and effort into the background of it to make it that way. So that I can still do what I mean, to be honest, like you probably tell by the amount that I can just talk about it endlessly, but I am very passionate also about this, not just coaching. So I want to continue to be the coach that I am now. I want to continue to try and be the best, natural coach I can possibly be. Um, alongside, building my ability to understand what it's like to be someone that promotes shows. And I see no reason why I can't do both. And I see no reason why I can't also like continue to train the way that I train because, I still love training and I still love being an athlete. For me, the diet, the sleep, that side of things is so easy, like so autonomous that I don't even have to think about it. I just do it. And that's obviously a benefit of doing this for a long time as an athlete. So then the coaching element is not biting off more than I can chew, which I know what my limit is, so I just don't bite off more than I can chew. And then this year is just a step into other aspects of my life. But I think I watch a lot of like entrepreneurs and stuff on YouTube, and the stuff that I see them do, I'm like, man, they're working so much harder than me. They're doing so much more than me. And I feel like I'm only just scratching the edge of what I can actually do in like a 24-hour window or a week, whilst I still manage my own process super well and take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of anything else. So yeah, I feel like I'm very grounded on that side, and I'm just excited to see what it's like to do all of the things that I'm planning to do next year. And then if I feel at any point like I'm getting a bit of a sense of overwhelm or it's taking away from something, then I can always just dial down one aspect of what maybe I didn't like, and I can just start to get even more help, because I'd be lying if I said that I'm doing this on my own, and by no means doing this on my own. I couldn't do it without the support of the people that I got behind me, especially Lee, obviously massively Loz. I mean, she doesn't even need to mention, she just does an incredible amount for me. Um, so yeah, like with the team that I've got, I feel like it's going to be something that's actually pretty manageable in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, spot on, mate. I think that was a great way to kind of cap things off and inspire a message to a lot of people out there, particularly some of the younger coaches, younger entrepreneurs and athletes really out there, that you can do these things. But like, yeah, having a great like team and network around you is definitely beneficial. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. It's been great, obviously diving further into the NBW International and having it's definitely built my excitement up. I'm sure it will
Oh,
do
good.
plenty of other listeners and watchers of this. I'm sure if I'll say the same. But yeah, it's been a
Final question before we finish. Are either of you planning to compete next year or not?
2026 for me, mate. I'll be
Yeah,
dropping you a message on that as well.
Can I tempt you?
same here. I'll be doing. I'm getting married next year, so I can't prep and get married at the same time.
Understood. Yeah,
a
that's
non-negotiable.
definitely too much.
But 100%, this is the kind of show that I've always, since I got into sport, wanted to be a part of. So
Yeah,
hopefully, little teething issues get out the window for next year, and then 2026 will be even bigger and better. So 100%, that will be my probably main show
yeah, man.
that year, mate. And just from my end, from what everything you've said in this episode, like from seeing how you've developed in the many years I've followed you in the sport, like for you to have this ambition, I know for a fact that it will happen. Like it just will, because everything else that you've said has happened with your own business. And I remember when you first set up NBW, what you wanted for that, and now it's there. And now you're saying about the shows. So from my end, I have every faith like that will happen with you, like at the
Appreciate it.
helm of it. And we should be all thankful for like what you're putting in and the passion that you're showing. Because ultimately, it needs people like you. It does, and I think
Appreciate it,
it's
man.
coming at the right time because, as you've seen next year, there's like a few more federations starting and a few more
Yeah, it's
taking
big.
up more natural
Yeah,
shows, which is good. But at the same time, we need a bit more of a focal point. So a show like this where everyone can come together, regardless of the politics of who does what federations and who's coaching who, and coaches not letting athletes do X and Y and Z.
Yeah.
Having good quality drug testing, having all these things. I think if we have that as the hub, then yeah, it's going to be a battle next year to stand out with all the other federations. But I'd hope that in the nicest possible way, this gets them to either level up or they fall by the wayside. Because if athletes are coming to your show and going, wow, that was incredible, and then they've done another show who they don't take drug testing seriously, they're on stage at 3 a.m, the backstage is poor, like the athlete experience is rubbish, the audience experience is rubbish. I think, like you say, they may have to like look at themselves and think, well, we need to work harder. We can't just take people's money and for granted anymore, or the athletes will vote on the feet. So I think it's only positive, like what you're doing with this, and I think it will set the standard and raise the standard, and hopefully everyone else follows, because then the sport itself just gets better and better.
Yeah, agreed, man. Thank you very much for the kind words. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, final note from me is that I want the main force behind this show is to elevate natural bodybuilding as a whole. So to the athletes that watch this and fancy the show, do all the other shows that you want. Do everything. Do every show. Like, we don't care. No one else should care. You know, for me as an athlete, I've always wanted to feel like I can do everything. And funnily enough, I haven't felt like that for a little bit of time now. And it's time that, you know, anyone new to the sport, don't just lock yourself down to one thing. Just experience everything, you know. And then if you find one thing that you like and one thing, one federation, one show, whatever that you really want to target, go for it. Go all in on that. You know, maybe save yourself for that one. But as a first timer, as a teen, as a junior, as someone that's just getting started, just go and do everything. Go and do whatever you want, you know? Obviously have a strategy behind it. I'm not saying compete from June all the way to October. Don't try and do that. But, you know, there's a good bunch of shows now. Like I saw the list. It's, you know, September through to October. We're looking at shows back to back most weekends, all the way through to the NBW, and then obviously towards the international shows that you'll have, WMBF Worlds, Universe, etc. Go and do them all. Like you see me as a coach, I'm at pretty much every show, every federation, because I encourage my athletes to do what they want and they can make their own decisions. So I'm personally at WMBF Worlds in 2 weeks' time, super excited for it. And I'll continue to support all the other federations as a coach and just generally as a guy that enjoys the sport. So that's not going to change.
Yeah, perfect. And that's a great way to end things off. But yeah, as we mentioned before, it's been a pleasure having you on, mate. And yeah, all the best with this. I'm sure it'll, as Finn said very philosophically, I'm sure it'll go very, very well for you, mate.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
No worries, bud. Enjoy the rest of your day, mate.
Thank you, bud. See you in a bit.